on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast, and we are halfway through the year. Crazy. Cheers, flying by. How's it going, guys?
Well,
now you make me feel old.
yeah. Let me just say,
half of this year is what's making you feel old. I think the fact that you're old is making you feel old.
No, it's because I literally I didn't even think about today that it was June today. Like I literally looked like last week it was May 20 something or whatever, and then I was busy all week. Now I look it's June. I'm like, damn, time is really ticking away.
That's right. Days are slow, years are fast.
it was a very on the baseball end of things, Bo. It was a very change of pace. We actually got first place, and then the next day we lost first place.
Yeah, you by half a game, right?
Yeah. You're a half a game ahead of me, and I'm like, so we got decimated in that one game. The Astros got decimated by Tampa, and Phillies got decimated, and the Yankees got decimated all on the same day. Yep. And you, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, in your perspective, you got the win, and you took back first place. And
again, it's a half a game. Doesn't mean anything. What is interesting is I keep waiting for the Rangers to start to fade, and they just keep hanging out.
Yeah.
I would much prefer this be a 2-team race. I'd like to get the Rangers out of the mix.
Me too.
But yeah, they're just hanging out. How's it going, Win?
Getting closer to vacation. I hear you, brother.
Yeah. I am ready for some vacation. Too bad I don't have any coming.
That only applies if you got vacation days.
No, just a lot of work ahead of me at the moment. But so we got not a lot to talk about in baseball, really. I mean, we're just kind of where we are. It's been more or less the same for the last 3 weeks. Been within about a game of each other. So,
I mean, there is some baseball news that came out today. I don't know if you guys saw it, though.
I mean, share it.
It looks like Corbin Burns is going to be needing Tommy John surgery because Corbin Burns left his start yesterday in Arizona with elbow pain and elbow discomfort. MRI scheduled for tomorrow morning, which everyone knows what happens when a starting pitcher says, I have elbow discomfort in my pitching arm.
Yep. That's season ender.
Even if it's not Tommy John, it's still probably going to be a season ender because we're 3 months into the baseball season now. If you're getting shut down 8 to 12 weeks, you're looking at September as the earliest you can return plus the ramp-up period.
Yep.
He's probably done for the year.
Yep.
Another high-price pitcher.
All these, all these pitchers, all these quality pitchers just seem to be going by the weeds, with this elbows and stuff. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I know there's a lot of
it's velocity.
Yeah,
it's the high velocity, the high spin rates on the breaking ball, and how 10, 15 years ago, and obviously going back to when Greg Maddux pitched. Back then, you had guys throwing 91, 92, and their primary focus was to work the corners and work the strike zone top down to try to get hitters to not necessarily chase their pitchers, but try to get as many calls as possible. You look at how pitching is now, velocity is such an important part of the game now. Pitchers aren't pitching anymore. They're just going out there and throwing as hard as they can throw, hoping to blow it by you. You can still throw a 94, 95 and be successful in this league if you work the corners. But nobody wants to work the corners anymore. They want to just try to throw every single pitch right by the hitter because they think that's what you need to do to be successul.
Well, and that's why home runs are the way they are.
Yeah.
You throw a meatball at 95, someone's going to tattoo that thing.
Even with the Cubs closer right now, Daniel Palencia, he throws 101, 102. But he's also given up 6 home runs in 14 innings because you could throw 101, 102, but if you have no movement on that fastball, it's still a freaking meatball where if a batter squares it up, it's going to go a long way.
For sure.
And that's my point. So do you think at some point, because of the injuries, because maybe it's not as effective as what they want it to be, that they will go back to what you're saying, where it's more slower, not so much velocity, but more movement related?
I think you'll have to start seeing pitchers. I hate saying it this way. Like, you're gonna have to see pitchers learn how to pitch, because obviously, if you're in the major leagues, you know how to pitch. But you're gonna have to see pitchers go back to focusing on pitching first, throwing second. Because right now it's all about just throwing as hard as you can throw, throwing the best breaking ball you can possibly throw, trying to get as much spin on the ball as possible, as opposed to you're not worried about the pitching aspect. Pitchers nowadays, like even in college and high school now, so many pitchers now are throwing 90 to 95 in high school now that the velocity aspect is never going to go away. But they're going to have to start going back to the basics and be like, yes, you can throw 95, 96, but there's more to pitching than just throwing hard. You need to learn how to become a pitcher first, and then worry about the throwing aspect of it second.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I feel like, and like you said earlier, I think you guys don't even let high schoolers throw a curveball until what? They're at a certain age?
We don't let I mean, they say you can start throwing it at age 11, which I will never let anybody throw it that young. Usually age 12, you start to see it, but like 13 is when they start being like, okay, now you can start throwing it.
Is that just because the body's development? You feel like their body's not developed enough to handle throwing the curve at 11?
You have a 12-year-old throwing 30, 40 curveballs a game, their arm's going to be shattered by the time they get to 14.
For sure.
Hey, it will be completely shattered by the time they get to 14 years old if they're throwing that many curveballs.
They really shouldn't be throwing. We're talking about throwing a curveball.
Yeah.
I got to imagine that's right here.
Yeah.
They shouldn't even be throwing it until about 17.
Yeah, 17. Yeah, 17 is
100%. The muscles, not the muscles. Your muscles actually will be fully configured by the age of 17. But your bone structure isn't fully done until your 18th birthday.
Yep.
So, and that's part of the problem. When you are throwing a curveball, you are doing things that put stresses on your bones in ways that they shouldn't go. And this is interestingly enough, it has very similar tendencies to arm wrestling.
Yep.
So when you're arm wrestling, if you you always are supposed to put your shoulder to your arm. If you start to put your shoulder outside of your arm like this, you start to twist your bones, like ringing them, and you can't do that. Your bones can only take about 7 pounds of pressure.
Yep.
When it comes to that. So, and that's what you're doing when you're throwing a curveball.
Mm-hmm.
You are creating stresses and pressures that ring your arm some. So, like I said, so that's why you're always supposed to have your shoulder proud of your arm. And it's amazing how many similarities there are to arm wrestling and pitching, because you're using the same types of muscles and bone structure. So you're always supposed to be like this. You always want your shoulder on the back part. The moment you start out this way, your arm starts twisting. And I said, there is no grosser sound. It is one of those things that sends shivers. Like you have hair stand up. It's when you hear somebody pop that arm like that, it's a recognizable sound, and it's like watching a guy get kicked in the balls. Very, very similar. It's a very similar thought process. And that's why.
That's crazy.
And I mean,
so we were talking about Corbin Burns going down with elbow discomfort in his throwing arm, and so we were talking basically about, and Stat Guy was talking about how, pitchers are more concerned with the velocity than they are necessarily the movement and painting the corners. And so we were thinking, or I was asking them, like, do you think you're going to see pitchers start to go more towards the art of pitching in terms of movement rather than the velocity, which is causing, I guess, these guys to have this Tommy John surgeries?
Well, and he's talking about how he just makes them throw straight gas as soon as they're like 5.
And they are. I'll tell you that we are 10 years away, a whole decade away from the return of the slower pitcher.
Probably.
Yeah.
We are. This is a whole situation right now that's going to have to play itself out. But you are going to see, and it's going to take a Maddox type, somebody who's going to be able to, like Jamie Moyer type, Phil Necro, those
Right.
types of pitchers that are going to be able to do really well throwing 70, 80, and 90 miles an hour. People are forgetting this in a different way. When you throw a 40-mile-per-hour fastball and somebody levels up and swings on it and knocks it out for a home run, they have to be swinging at about 110 miles an hour.
Yeah, you got to lift that thing.
Because now you got to put a lot more pressure on that. It's amazing that they're not teaching people to pitch slower, because you start changing the trajectories of things. They have to swing faster to get to that. There's so much more involved with doing that when you're so used to hitting gas. I'm surprised that there aren't pitchers out there that can throw the 60-mile-per-hour changeup, where we'd watch somebody swing and then almost could swing again if they wanted to.
Well, that's why it's so hard for hitters to hit position players. You bring a position player in there, a position player. There's I think it was either Freddie Freeman or Anthony Rizzo. I can't remember which one, but they were throwing like 82, 83. Like ball wasn't coming in like slow, but 82,
that
83.
Wasn't Moyer's fastball was actually a bad pitch for him.
Yeah, his changeup was his pitch.
The changeup going at 67 miles an hour, that you were expecting a fastball at 84, and it would be coming in at 68.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you could time up, and when the hitters were on Moyer, he was having a bad day.
No question.
But there was, and you guys know about it because he pitched in Seattle forever.
Yep.
And then came to win a ring in Philadelphia. No offense.
Everybody wins a ring somewhere else.
but
I do think when you have that high heat fastball and you combine that with, a 60-mile-an-hour changeup or a curve or whatever, I think you're like you said, I think the strikeouts are going to go way up because people are going to really be chasing because they're not ready for that off speed when they're expecting that high heat.
So you got to watch that exact thing here in Seattle because Randy Johnson generally pitched the day before it. So if you had a series against a guy, all of a sudden you have Randy come out who is, 8,000 feet tall and basically hands the ball to the catcher. But, that ball's coming in at $1, $2. And then you had Moyer come in the next day. It's all the same hitters, right? Yeah. And he's throwing a 68-mile-an-hour changeup. And, everybody was so early for that ball.
I remember that because the big unit actually pitched that one year for Houston, and I actually went to one of his games. And you're right. When you get that one high heat guy and then the one low heat guy, it's a huge difference.
Well, you saw that at the end of Moyer's career too. His final year, I think he played with the Rockies, or it might have been his second to last year. He played with the Rockies as a reliever. Ubaldo Jimenez started for the Rockies. Guy throws 96, 97 consistently, goes 7 innings. All of a sudden, you bring Jamie Moyer in the 8th. And you go in from seeing 96, 97 for 110 pitches to 75, 68, 64. And these hitters were so in front of it. It was just this is what you call being funny now.
Well, especially at the end of his career, some of those were all the way down at right at 60.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he was amazing in the bullpen because all of a sudden, so it was comical how if one of your starting pitchers got knocked out in the first 3 innings, that you'd bring in Jamie Moyer. He was the perfect middle relief guy because he was so wackadoo in terms of what you were lined up for.
Right.
He would be
and because of that, it actually because things look so comical, it actually gives your team a chance. Your team all of a sudden is okay, well, they're laughing. They're loosened up a little bit, and now they actually start chipping away at the lead.
The funny thing is, if Jamie Moyer pitched today and was a relief pitcher today, he would have a legitimate shot to be a Cy Young candidate out of the bullpen because you could bring him in any situation after you have all these flame-throwing starters, and hitters won't be able to touch him.
Disagree. You can't bring him. He's not a 7th, 8th, or 9th guy. You're not. He's not a closer.
No,
You're not going to be able to bring him in the 7th or the 8th. So you actually, he only fits middle relief.
Yeah.
And realistically, he's a very specific middle relief in times when. So if somebody is getting to, like when Wheeler was getting it at the beginning of that 17-7 game this weekend, that I happened to stop riding a bike so that I could go to. I tell you, my ass and my ego both hurt after that game. But I mean, ultimately, like when they started to get to him and they had that 8-run inning, at that point, that was in the 4th inning. You could bring him in and he would go 3 innings probably, and nobody, like, he'd maybe give up 1 or 2 hits. It wouldn't be anything, but it would make them look so ridiculous because gas, now 67 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that's where that comes from, that he could, and that's what the Phillies really used him for in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
When they were giving up, when they gave up 4 runs early in the first 3 innings, they brought him in, and he was the cooler. That's really what he is. He's a cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Cools down the hitters. Let's cool down the hitters.
Yep. Joe, we've been here. It was just Pags that was off last week.
So, I apologize, everybody. Tuesday of last week, I received an email, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I wound up in San Diego. Literally got the email on Tuesday. Wednesday was in San Diego, filming a commercial that everybody except Joe will see, because it's going to be a national commercial, not a international commercial. So, Joe, unfortunately, you won't see it. But when it comes out, we'll show it here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We can put it on here. Absolutely.
I can't do much talking about it because I did have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I will say that, it was with Fernando Tatis Jr., who is obviously, he's a San Diego Padre and stuff like that. But he was a really cool guy. I mean, he was a cool kid, just very a lot taller than I expected him to be. I didn't expect him to be as tall as he was. But good,
So,
but good guy.
So what is he, like 6'4", 6'5"?
6'4".
6'4"?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was surprised. I'm like, wow, he's a lot taller than I said. When you see him on TV, he doesn't look as tall.
Right.
So I suspected he was about my size, or maybe like 5'10". I didn't suspect him to be 6'4". So it just tells me how much bigger everybody else is in that dugout.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Like Tatis is a lot bigger than what people think he is. Because you look at his dad. His dad was only like 5'10", 5'11". His dad was not that tall. And then you get Fernando Tatis Jr. I was just like, holy crap.
Well, and not only that, I mean, this is where I was like, well, I wonder what type of steroids he was taking. Because ultimately, that GHB, if you were taking the cream and the clear, everything grew. So, like, he would have actually, at the right age, this happened 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. He could have grown a couple of inches after 21 years of age if he was taking the right stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He makes a lot more money than me. That was one of the things that was actually told to me at the commercial. I was like, I made a funny comment. It was a little funny, you know what I mean? And it had to do with the Padres and just I was poking a little fun at the Padres, and a guy goes, "What? You can't say that." I'm like, "What do you mean? I can't banter with this guy?" He's like, "Listen, not as much as you're getting paid for this. If you were getting paid more, yes, you could go ahead and do that. Right now, you can't." Which I thought was amazingly true and accurate. I'm like, well, I can't really argue that.
And hilarious.
It was exactly fun because I get the joke. I get the joke.
Yeah, because you'd be sitting there like, fair enough. Yep.
So,
Hey,
but yeah, but it was fun. It was a good time. Interestingly enough, I am able to say this: there was an Astro who was
yeah, I did
in
see
the
that.
commercial with me. So it
Nice.
was an Astros fan, a Dodgers fan, and 2 Braves fans with me. So
Nice.
I
I
did
got
see
I
that
got
Astros fan. I saw that on Facebook because you posted that on Facebook where you were with them.
that picture was a good picture. So it was so yeah, I didn't want to. I'm not really like I'm skirting about everything about the commercial. I can't say anything about the commercial itself, but I could just say who the players are, you know, that were in it. So, but it was
Cool.
good. It was good, and I will tell you that you see me in a way that you don't ever see me.
At least so much.
Pirates here.
So much to the imagination. Just saying, so much to the imagination.
But the
Hey, did you
The Astros guy was, I don't know if you follow him on Instagram. It's AG Win. He's a Vietnamese guy.
Yeah.
He gets all dressed up. It wasn't Space Boy. I know if you go to
Yeah.
Astros games and stuff like
Yeah.
that, people know who he is. That wasn't him. It was AG Win, who I knew from the World Series. I met at the World Series. So it was interesting because when we ran into each other, he recognized me right away. You know, I have such a time. You know, I see so many people; it's all blur to me. And he's like, "The Philly guy," and I'm like, "Yeah." and then I knew right away who he was. So
Nice.
yeah, it was fun out in San Diego, beautiful San Diego, where it rains only 2 times a year. Right when I show up, 60
Now, Pags,
degrees,
you were in the
60
Navy.
degrees and rain.
Pags, you were in the Navy. Did you go to boot camp in San Diego, or where did you go?
Orlando.
Oh, you went to Orlando?
Yeah, I was a nuke.
Oh, I got you. Oh, yeah, I went to San Diego, and it was. We used to march in flood waters. Oh, it was horrible. I don't miss those days at all. That's interesting, though. Okay.
Now you only go to boot camp at one spot, and that's the great.
Yeah. Great mistakes.
So,
Bo, the Rockies have actually set the worst modern day era at 9-50. Just when you didn't think it could get any worse.
No, they've been on pace to worst team in the league, really from the jump. Like, it is impressive the dedication to sucking that they have.
And I should say that's in the modern era at 9-50, the worst bar, but the worst start. Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's only because there's, when you go back a ways, they didn't play as many games. I mean, they're on pace to have the worst winning percentage ever.
That's incredible, man.
I mean, that these teams are going after it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year we had the White Sox do it.
Yeah.
Break the record. Now we're going to have a new team break the record. It's like
2 years in a row is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 years. I mean, I'm really surprised the A's were not ever in that conversation because the A's had really bad teams, but not near as what the White Sox and Rockies are.
Well, the thing with the A's though, like even when the A's had like bad teams, they still had some talent, like Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler, Shea Langoliers. Like they still had some talent that would produce home runs. They had Mason Miller.
They had a better AAA system. They had a better minor league system.
Yeah.
The A's have always had great minor leagues.
And when they called up Mason Miller, you knew that if the A's had the lead in the 9th inning, chances are they were going to win that game because of Mason Miller. The Rockies don't have a bullpen. They don't have a closer. They have one decent starter whose ERA is like a 4.06. He's the only starter that's under like 4.8. And their leading hitter has 7 home runs and 20 RBIs. He's hitting a 206. Like they literally have nothing on their roster that gets you like, oh, this guy can carry the team for a couple games here and there.
I mean, it is tough to get RBIs if nobody can get on the bag.
Well, no, I'm just saying that that's what I'm saying. They have nobody that's even hitting north of like 250. I don't think. If they do, it's like one guy that's hitting like a 255, 260. But when you can't get guys on base, you can't drive anybody in. So there's nobody on that team that scares you and said, if this guy gets on a hot streak, they may win 3 or 4 games in a row. It's like, no, if he gets on a hot streak, they might score 3 runs.
Exactly.
All 3 runs will come from him.
And that's where his RBIs are. Getting himself in. Man.
You knew it was going to be a rough year for the Colorado Rockies when they faced their AAA minor league team for their final 2 spring training games, tied the first game 4-4 and lost the second game 6-3.
Yeah.
You knew it was going to be a long season when that's how you end spring training, basically losing one game and tying the other game with your AAA team.
Yeah, I mean, you should just roster swap at that point.
Right? Like, oh, wait, well, fine, here you go.
I mean, couldn't get worse, right?
Right?
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. I just didn't think you could get any worse, but than what the White Sox did. But the Rockies damn sure made a point to prove it.
Hold my beer.
Pretty much. And they're doing it in a convincing way. This isn't like, oh, we're kind of close to what the Sox did. Like, they are bad.
The White Sox are, at this point last season, the White Sox are 7 wins better than the Rockies.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the White Sox right now look like a playoff team. Last year's White Sox team compared to this year's Rockies team, the White Sox look like a playoff team. And that's hard.
If you bet $100 against Colorado in every game, you'd be up over 5K right now. Yeah.
Hold on, they can't be favored in all that.
No. Against Colorado.
So here's the ERAs.
So that's even taking the terrible money line, you would still be up.
Yeah, those 9 games would actually. I don't know that you'd be up $5,000.
So here are the ERAs of the Colorado Rockies starting staff. You have Kyle Freeland is 0-8 with a 5.72. Chase Dolander is 2-5 with a 6.28. Herman Marquez is 1-7 with a 7.13. Antonio Senzatella is 1-10 with a 7.24 ERA. And then the one guy that's actually performing well is 3-3 with a 4.36 ERA, and he's a rookie in Hunter Goodman.
Wow. Yeah. Damn.
So yeah, 4 guys with an ERA north of 5.72, and those 4 pitchers are a combined 3 and 30, with a 6.49 combined ERA between those 3.
Wow.
That's gonna get it done for 162 games.
Yeah. Wow. That's
You
crazy.
give me $400,000, I will gladly go pitch in Colorado. I don't care what my numbers look like.
Me too. It can't be any worse than them.
Exactly.
Hey, an L's an L.
Yeah.
Damn.
Exactly. You can make the league minimum, which is like $810,000 is the league minimum.
I'd be happy as hell. Oh, I'd be so happy.
Granted, my arm would get barbecued immediately, and then I'd be on IR anyway. But
you still get paid.
Guaranteed contract, so let's go.
Ask any minor league pitcher right now that's been in the minors for 6 or 7 years. You mean to tell me that if the Colorado Rockies called the Dodgers organization or the Houston organization are we'll give one of your AAA pitchers $500,000 to come pitch for us in Colorado, you think that AAA player is going to be like, no, I'd rather stay here in AAA and see what happens? Of course they're going to take the $500 contract and be like, yeah, sure, send me to Colorado.
Yeah. Well, right now he's using about 2 or 3 different minor leaguers this year, and they have a little bit better ERA than what Colorado's sporting, which weirdly enough. They got the guy, what's his name? Corbin Williams. I think that was his last name. Hey, they just called him up 2 days ago, and he pitched against Tampa. I want to say about 2 nights ago. He didn't do well. I think he had I think his ERA was just under 6 when he left the game. But I mean, it's minor leaguers we expect, right? That's how bad it is right now with the Astros, Bo. I really can't believe we're only a half game behind you. Given, like I said, given our pitching staff right now, I'm surprised. Yeah, right. Well, I can understand that.
It was funny. I was watching a game. I guess it was Washington against Seattle, and it was 2-2 going into the 10th, and next thing you know, it was 11-2.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well,
hard to come back in that second half of that inning after that.
We ended up getting a run in the 10th. Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah, you can't small ball your way to 9 runs.
Nope. I mean, you can, but man, it takes a minute.
It does.
A long minute.
Well, that was
I was watching that game, and it was, I was at a restaurant with friends, and it was going into the 10th, and we were just like, you know what? As soon as it goes into extra innings, the Mariners find ways to lose. I was like, I'll just catch the score when we get home. and I, checked my phone as soon as we got home, and I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't stay to watch that.
I mean, it's funny that you brought that up with Washington, how it was 2-2 and then it was 11-2. Washington set a record the other day against the Arizona Diamondbacks where Brandon Pfaadt, who was the pitcher for the Diamondbacks that day, gave up 8 runs and 8 batters without recording an out for the most runs in MLB history without recording an out.
Wow. That is terrible.
Damn. So think about that. I mean, obviously, that means that 8th guy hit a home run.
Those
had to have.
Well, no, because he faced 8. Because if he faced
8, and if he scored 8 runs on 8 batters,
but if they took him out though, and then the next pitcher gave up the hit that let it run, that still goes on him. So he could have faced 8 batters with like 5 or 6 guys scoring, and then the next pitcher comes up, gives up a double, then those 2 runs still get charged to Brandon Pfaadt. But I think he gave up 6 runs in the 8 batters he faced, left with guys on first and third, and then the next pitcher comes in and gives up an RBI double. So then it becomes the 8 earned runs charged to him.
That is rough. And yeah, Rob, you're right. Some of it is we do have pitching injuries as well, which is why we have a pitcher getting called up. One of your comments at the top was Joe Marquez. So, I mean, that's some of it, right? Obviously Kirby's come back, but he hasn't been right yet. And, there's other injuries that they got to get through, but every team has injuries. Like, it's just part of it. So you got to figure out how to win with those injuries.
I just think it's crazy. The closer we get to All-Star break and the closer, last place is to first place in terms of games, that anybody in that damn division is not out of it. Like, you know what I mean? Even momentum-wise, they're not out of it, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, no, like we were saying at the top, right? The fact that the Rangers are still sticking around, it's like, man, got to create some separation.
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy, though, that there hasn't been a lot of separation as close to the All-Star break as we are. Like you said earlier, usually 3 teams are very separated from the rest, but no, not right now. Honestly, really. I don't know. It's a weird season, man. It's a weird season. It is a weird season.
Speaking of weird seasons, switching over to football, they were talking to Flacco about mentoring.
I'm glad you brought this up.
And he had he actually had a good response.
He did. I respect his response.
Instead of sounding like a douche like Aaron Rodgers, he had a good response. So here's that.
Point you can kind of like use it because it's a good question to bait somebody into answering, and no matter how they answer it, it kind of makes the guy that's answering it look bad. If I say I don't want to be a mentor, I look bad. If I say I do want to be a mentor, then I look like an idiot that doesn't care about being good and playing football. So it's one of those questions that no matter what I say, you guys can write what you want to write about it. And there's a lot of questions like that. That's why you end up having to try to avoid them. I tend to try to be honest, and I've said I'm not a mentor. I play football. And in a quarterback room, there's a lot of times there's been a ton of times where there's learning experiences, and I have a lot of experience, and I can talk on things, and hopefully they listen. But it's not necessarily like my job to like make sure they listen to me. And hey, like hopefully you have a really good relationship with the guys that are in the room, and you naturally want to do that, But that was a long-winded answer, but that's ultimately why I think you guys ask it,
Joe, you said you don't watch the draft. So when you found out that the Browns drafted 2 quarterbacks, did you have any kind of reaction to that?
I think you always have a little bit of reaction, going back to being honest. Yeah, I mean, my wife was like, oh, they just drafted another guy. My wife is on top of it,
Yeah.
I mean, I respect the hell out of him for that answer, because that's pretty much how you have to answer that question. Like, my job is to play football.
That's a real answer. And the thing is it's not like he was saying, yeah, I go out of my way to not help these guys.
No, he even said
and no, he said, I am a little bit of a mentor already because
Yeah.
there's a lot of it. When you could talk from experience,
Exactly.
you are going to be able to teach. And in that regards, I am able to teach. I am a mentor during those moments. Short of that, I'm trying to be the starting quarterback on this team.
that's the
But
main.
in this case, he's just trying to be on the roster.
That's the main reason why I wanted the Minnesota Vikings to bring in Joe Flacco this offseason to be the backup to McCarthy, because if McCarthy wasn't healthy week 1, Flacco can start week 1 in like a short-term situation. But then, like you said, he's had plenty of experiences where he can talk about his experiences. And if you're a young quarterback that's with Flacco, you can pick up on what he's talking about. And even if he's not physically going out of his way to mentor you, that's his way of mentoring, where he's explaining all these experiences that he's had. And he's like, if you can pick this up, I'm doing my job without going out of my way to mentor you.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're obviously not obligated to try and help someone else take your job, right? But at the same time, you got to be a good teammate. And that's where I made that Aaron Rodgers comparison.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because both of them are like, oh, I'm not a mentor. The difference here is Flacco
Still will help.
exactly. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Like if Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel has questions about like a certain way a defense does something, Flacco will actually take the time and be like, okay, this is what they do in these situations, versus Aaron Rodgers will be like, I don't know, figure it out.
no, and that's exactly the difference, right? He's not going to go out of his way to help you, but he is going to speak on things. And if you're smart and you pay attention, then you'll get something out of it. And if you don't, it's not his job to make you. So I really liked that answer.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good answer. Matter of fact, Anthony Edwards should give Joe Flacco a call and learn how to answer questions. That might help him.
Yeah, I mean, he needs a media guy for sure. he needs someone to coach him up there. Yeah, I mean, Flacco's a good dude. He's that he's that pro's pro, right? Like he does all the things he's supposed to do.
He is, without playing for as many teams as Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he's like this generation's version of Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he's going to sign these 1-year deals to be a backup or to compete for a low-end starting job. But he's still a hell of a locker room guy that you want to have in your locker room.
Oh, no doubt. I can't speak on that, Scott. I mean, I don't know where he would think he has the leverage to keep a team from drafting somebody for a guy that at best is going to be on a roster for a couple of years. I have to imagine that was like on the sports memery or something. I can't imagine that was a real one.
It is weird though that we're a good ways away now removed from the draft, and still he has not made a decision one way or the other what he's going to do.
No, that's not surprising. That's not surprising at all, because he doesn't want to do any of these OTAs or practice. I mean, he wasn't going to show up anyway. So now he doesn't catch any of the heat for not showing up because he's not on a roster. Like,
Exactly.
So if you had to be a predictor, so if you were predicting, are you saying that you think that Rodgers is going to wait till, like, let's say a few days before a training camp and sign and then just go do training camp? Is that what you're thinking?
No,
he's going to
do training camp. He's not even do training camp. He's a week 1 sign because somebody got hurt.
That's what I still stand by what I said, where I don't think he signs before week 1. I think he just waits it out until somebody loses a starting quarterback. Maybe like a team that was in the playoffs last year, or a team that is borderline one of those playoff contenders. And then he's like, oh, well, you're 4-1 right now. You just lost your starting quarterback. I can come in for 11 weeks and keep you in playoff contention.
Yeah. And Scott, Favre actually retired and then unretired like 3 times. So, I mean,
yeah, he did.
This was a little different because he at least said he was retiring and then took it back, whereas Rodgers is, just MIA.
Like a lot of Favre's like retirement talk was injury related too. It wasn't like he was just done playing because he wanted to be done playing. He was just like, well, I don't know if my body can take the punishment for another year. And then he'd wait out like 2.5 months. He's like, I'll give it another whirl and see what I can do. Same thing next offseason. Like, I got a couple more concussions this year. I don't know if I should go back out there, wait a little bit. Let's give it one more whirl and see what I can do.
Yep.
And then he had his one good year in Minnesota, and that's, I think, the ultimate one where I was surprised he came back knowing how bad his ankle was after that playoff game. And he's just like, yeah, I don't want to go out like that. I will come back one more year and see what I can do. And then in week 14, he got his head knocked off and was done anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he had a really good run there with the Vikings, so. I have not watched the documentary yet.
It's bad.
I'm interested in it, though.
It's bad.
It would have to be.
I mean, I'm not saying like bad as in like a bad thing to watch. Like it's a good thing to watch, but it just makes him look really bad.
Well, no, that's what I was assuming you meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you knew it was going to be bad. Just because we were all there for the way it ended. Yeah. So you're just like, oh, okay. And then, the subsequent couple of years after that where everything really got off the rails.
Well, I mean, he was bad at a lot of different things. Hell, even his damn relationship with his wife was bad.
That's what the documentary kind of puts into perspective. It's you learn how bad his Jets tenure was during this documentary. Not just his play and not just the injury, but the whole massage therapist, the dick pics, everything that went on.
Yeah.
He was with the Jets. You actually find out how bad it actually was. Where if he pulled that now, Deshaun Watson would look like a saint compared to what Aaron Rodgers did when he was with the Jets. That's how bad it was when he was in New York.
They must have something in the water over there for Jets because that's
right.
Same thing with Joe Namath. Stop feeding those guys that champagne or whatever.
Like to sit here and say like Deshaun Watson and Justin Tucker would look like good humans compared to what Favre did when he was in New York. That just goes.
I mean, do you remember the whole Mark Chmura thing though? Do you remember the Mark Chmura thing when he was with Green Bay?
Yeah.
In the hot tub? Oh my gosh.
That's when Mark Chmura went to prison for 15, 20 years.
Oh God.
That's right. Justin Fields better just hide in his house as soon as he's not on the field.
Yeah, that's why they gave Justin Fields. That's why they gave Justin Fields a body cam.
Oh man, yeah, Justin's gonna have. He said he's so excited to be with the Jets too. Justin Fields did. I want to see
what's he
how that.
Supposed to say? I hate being.
No,
here.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I can't wait to see how this all works out for him.
Like, what's he supposed to say? I hate being here. I hate being a starting quarterback for the Jets. I really wish I'd be a backup somewhere. Like, what's he supposed to say?
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you can't say what you're actually thinking.
Yeah.
This place
That's what I'm saying. Though. Like, if he goes in his first interview and be like, God, this place really sucks. I don't know why I signed here. Well, guess what? He's not going to be starting week 1. So if he wants to be the starter, he's got to be like, yeah, I want to be here. You want to
be out of the league, so you're going to be excited about being there because somebody's writing you checks.
I just find it funny. Did you hear about why they gave him the helmet cam that they gave him?
No.
Because he's still having problems reading a defense. So Aaron Glenn stuck basically a GoPro helmet cam on his helmet. So once practices are over, he sits down with Justin Fields and they dissect the defense because he was the defensive coordinator.
You know what? As much as people will make fun of that,
that's a good idea actually because some
people just don't know how to do those things, right? Yeah. Like they were never taught how to break down a defense. So like I'm not mad at that.
No, that's actually smart because when he was in Chicago, he had no coaches that could help him break down a defense because the coaching staff was pathetic. Now he's actually got a defensive-minded head coach that actually went up against Justin Fields for several years when Fields was in Chicago and he was the defensive coordinator in Chicago. Now it's like, okay, this is what we just did at practice. This is what you did. And then they just break it down like piece by piece. Like if you see this person blitzing here, you want to check down and go here. If you think you can take the shot, you got to make sure you take that shot as soon as you hit your drop back.
Yeah, no, I like seeing coaches coach. Like I like to see guys that are actually doing what their job is.
That's the way to really say that.
Yep.
Watching coaches coach.
And that's what everyone's been saying about Aaron Glenn. Like they said this year, the Jets might be a terrible football team, as in like a 3 or a 4-win team. But they said the biggest difference with Aaron Glenn in Chicago or in New York is he actually knows how to coach. Not necessarily coach for wins and losses, but he knows how to coach. and develop the players that are going to be with the Jets for years to come.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. So often you see guys shy away from coaching, right? Even though that's what their job is. The NFL is such you have to win today or you're fired, that you don't get to see a lot of player development. So it's always refreshing when you see a guy, it's his first year, so he's going to get that latitude anyway. But it's
not
always refreshing.
typically, not anymore, really.
Not anymore. No.
Well, in this case, I think he will.
So,
Yeah.
Same situation with the Saints. You would suspect that they would do.
Exactly.
They would give him some time to be able to get his team in order before. I mean, obviously he's there now, and he just won a ring, and now he took probably the worst job in the NFL that was available.
Exactly. Yeah.
Short of the Jets job, which is
for real.
And I love the fact that Douglas is back with the Eagles, because he was amazing with us. And it was Gase that talked him into going over there against his will. He didn't really want to become the Jets GM. And now he's back with the Eagles. And like I said, I have a feeling that, the one good thing that Howie does is he puts people that are smarter than him in the room.
Yep.
And that's why the Eagles are doing so well. Well that I've been hearing things like I've been reading stories and everything that the NFL is going to start changing some of the rules because of the way the Eagles do things.
Oh, boo-hoo.
It's not just the tush push that they're talking about actually changing the way that the cap gets served, that they're going to have a much harder cap.
Like I'm a Viking fan, so obviously I have to deal with the Eagles every year in the playoffs, but I'm not going to sit here and shit on their organization. Like, their organization is successful for a reason. They have one of the best PMs in the NFL. He knows what the hell he's doing, and there's a reason why the Eagles have gone from a middle of the road team to one of the two best teams in the NFL for the last 7-8 years. And it's not just because they sign all these free agents. It's because their GM knows how to draft. He knows how to acquire picks, and he knows what the hell he's doing when it comes to trades and contracts.
And they are still like one of the top 5 teams in the NFL since the year 2000.
Yeah.
That they have, since Jeffrey Lurie has taken over ownership of this team, they have been one of the more successful teams. And that's the reason why I like Howie. Again, so take a rugby player, never played football before in his life. Give him 3 years of eat, drink, and crap football, offensive tackle. He becomes one of the best offensive tackles in the league. So much so that it's likely that he will be a perennial all-pro player, and be first team or second team, maybe third team all-pro for years to come. Same thing with Howie Roseman. He never played a down of football. All he's done since he's been here has been in training to be a general manager in the National Football League. And he learned under a guy who was such a douchebag. Banner was terrible and knew how to screw guys over and stuff like that. Jeremiah Trotter being one, where he goes to Washington and they cut him, and then he brings him back at like half the salary, and then came out and said, that's why they had to fire him, Joe Banner, because he comes out and says, look at me, I just got him at half the price. Like, yeah, nobody wants to come be on this team anymore because of you, asshole. That's why they had to let him go. But he learned, and Howie says, I made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. That's like the worst thing in the world. That's taboo.
I know. God forbid you be honest.
That's like the Vikings GM too.
He said, Huff, it's like, hey, it was a mistake. This was a bad mistake. We're eating it a little bit. Okay, move on.
Yeah.
That ring still looks shiny.
Right. Like that was like the Vikings GM too. Like he never played a down of football in his career, but Minnesota brought him into Minnesota because he spent his entire executive tenure in the NFL as either the manager of football research and development with the 49ers, the VP of operations in Cleveland, and he was also basically the 49ers capologist in San Francisco. So he handled so much of the financial things and like learned how to get under the salary cap, learned how to restructure all these deals where you can constantly like keep extending players, bringing in new players, but yet still be able to stay under that salary cap. So Minnesota brought him in because he was a financial expert. And now you look at the roster that he's assembled with Minnesota, the contracts he's been able to get free agent wise and all that. That's stuff that you can't learn as a football player. Like as a football player, you can learn how to build a roster based on talent, but there's a lot of other aspects that go into being a general manager that you can't learn as a player. It's what you learn outside of the game where you can learn that. And that's what Quessy did in Minnesota. Like he learned all the financial things and like all the business side of what makes an NFL organization work. And then he took that with him to Minnesota and he was paired with whoever the VP was in Minnesota when he got there. And that VP kind of showed him how to build up the organization player wise. And then he imprinted the financial stuff on it.
Now all he's got to do is win one.
Hey, he got his 2-year extension, which lines him up.
Yeah, that's all you got to do, right?
It's right now in Minnesota. It's win now. They have 3 years to prove that this is what it's going to take to win because they gave Kevin O'Connell a 2-year extension, which gives him 3 years left. They just gave their GM a 2-year extension on Friday, which gives him 3 years. So his contract and Kevin O'Connell's contract is tied together for the next 3 years. Like, this is their 3-year window. You're like, we got your rookie quarterback in McCarthy. Justin Jefferson is signed long-term. Hawkinson is signed long-term. We just signed your entire defense for the next 3 years long-term. Your offensive line is now signed long-term. Like, this is your 3-year window. If you can't win now, you never will.
Yeah.
It's a shame the Eagles are as good as they are.
That's what I'm saying. They could ultimately, at this point, get to the NFC Championship game 2 or 3 years in the next 3-year stretch. And you could still see both these guys get fired because they never made it to the Super Bowl. But with the Eagles being in the position that they're in, it's going to be so hard to knock them off, like in the NFC Championship game or even in the playoffs for that matter. So if you're going 12-5, 13-4 every year, getting to the NFC playoffs and making a deep playoff run, but you just can't beat the Eagles, I would be very upset if either one of them got fired because look at the AFC. How many teams have been able to beat the Chiefs outside of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, and they talk about those coaches getting fired every year.
And that those coaches stay there just because it's like, well, if we're going to the playoffs every year, we just keep running into this one team and we can't beat them. It's hard to fire someone that constantly gets you into the playoffs winning 11, 12, 13 games.
They keep talking about firing Shanahan, and all he's done is get to the championship game and a couple of Super Bowls. He just hasn't won one.
I mean,
They're like, you know what? He needs to get out of here. It's stale. It's like you're in the championship game almost every year.
Look at the Patriots when the Patriots were dominating in the AFC and just knocking everybody out in the playoffs. You didn't see all these
you've
coaches.
been successful. We should fire you.
Yeah, you don't see all these coaches getting fired just because they lose to the Patriots in the playoffs every year. It's just like that was one team that nobody could beat in the playoffs for basically 15 years. But you're not going to fire coaches because you're like, well, you made the AFC championship 3 times in the last 5 years, but you lost to the Patriots 3 times, so we're going to fire you. It's like, I beat everybody else.
Hey, Rex Ryan was able to beat him, but he wasn't able to win any games after that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Jets regret that one to this day.
So, Scott, I feel like on paper it's still Detroit.
Yep.
However, we got to see what they look like with their new coaching staff. That's going to be a tough thing for them.
I think Detroit's like 3rd or 4th now.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are going to be good.
The Rams I actually have as the 3rd best team in the NFC right now because that Devontae Adams acquisition is going to be huge for Stafford and that offense.
Yeah, they've done a really good job reloading that team.
I think the 2nd best team is in Peg's division.
Washington?
Yeah. I think that's the 2nd best team in the NFC right now, and they showed it last year. And by adding...
I could get into that as long as, Daniels doesn't have a, sophomore slump.
Well, adding Deebo Samuel is going to help that.
So, Joe, when you heard that, did he have a big white pile next to him? Because I wouldn't trust anything he said after that.
Yeah, right? 13-4 is hilarious.
Hello to my little friend. My Cowboys are going to go 13-4.
Was his interview room a little foggy, a little smoky?
Right.
Bad lighting.
We talk about Michael Parsons is the truth. He just what was he now the highest paid non-quarterback in the league?
Of course he was going to
Original
be.
player.
Of course he was going to be. That was part
Yeah.
of
It was part of his plan. Jerry Jones.
Yeah, Michael Parsons. He's going to lead it. He's going to lead us back. I got every confidence.
Oh, so before we get out of here, just because you guys will think this is funny. So after you called out Chris, I don't know, 2 weeks ago now, he took the time to block me on every platform.
Did he?
Yeah. That's why we haven't seen him.
But how did you know he blocked? How did you know that he blocked?
Pegs?
Wow.
What's that?
I said, what?
How did you know that he blocked? Did you just see him not? How did you know that because you haven't had conversations with him? How did you know he got blocked?
Well, no, because he sent me messages on all of them before.
Oh, okay.
Now it says user are no longer available.
Oh, damn. Oh, Chris, come on. Hey,
Sad
little
man.
fun. Well, I tell you what, man, we live in a cancel culture like that.
That gets us to the top of the show. If you're watching on, try not to block us. If you are on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here. We will see y'all tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.